Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone, and we are back. I'm back home. You can see I'm in my chair. Vacation's over. We had a great time. We are back with 3 new decks, the whole full show as always. But before we get to that show, I'm going to invite you to join the Snap Judgments League. It is open to all $1 Patreon tiers. You can play with, as of right now, it's 175 players, including over 60 content creators that you can play in these leagues that have great prizes from season passes to much, much more. Check it out if you're interested. The link is in the description to this and every video. We're also doing regular, sort of like Friday Night Magic nights. We're calling, actually, I don't remember what the hell we're calling them, but whatever. You get to join like mini 8-person tournaments for some quick prizes. So if you're interested in Marvel Snap tournament play, make sure you check this out. Make sure you check out the Discord. We're even giving away a print of Dan Hip art. Again, check the description in this video. Tomorrow's video is going to kick off our new giveaway. We hit 9,000 subs, so we got to do something special. So we're doing a humongous giveaway. We're giving away our usual 15 season passes starting in Monday's video. And in addition to giving away those 15, you heard it right, 15 season passes, we will have several grand prizes to thank you for helping us get to 9,000. Make sure you sub, make sure you like, make sure you leave a comment. Help us fight that YouTube algorithm and grow. We'd really appreciate it. Our decks today are from our friend Phil Woodward, has one of my favorite new decks in the game. He finally cracked Zoo. We're going to take a look at April cards. I've been promising to do that forever, so we're finally going to get to those April cards. We've got a deck from the Genius Deck Builder Safety Blade. We've got the Moonknight Sonata bundle review, and then a deck from the homey Minh. We'll also, as always, have our questions of the day and end with our shop and shoutouts. Fire Troll asked my thoughts on Lockjaw as a tier 1 card, and what about Hela? So my main thought is I think Lockjaw for the time being is the problem. Any card that can turn 1 energy into 6 energy is going to be really, really dangerous in Marvel Snap, and Lockjaw has continually been broken. I think the first fix I'd try for Lockjaw is just making him a 4-2. I think that loss in consistency probably pushes these decks down far enough that they're no longer the meta, and I'm fine with all of this existing just as long as it's not the very best thing to do. I'm not really concerned about Hela. I think the Hela problem is ultimately a Lockjaw problem, not really a Hela problem. Richard Aaron TV asks who can help with his play, and Beat Zofflo wonders about Snap Zone Premium. So, Snap Zone Premium comes with, for $10 a month, a bunch of exclusive articles and group coaching by Den. That's an amazing deal. If you're willing to do that, I think there's absolutely no doubt that that is the best deal in terms of like getting better at Marvel Snap that you can do. We've also released recently, it'll be linked in this video, and you can check the channel fact in the description of this video. We've released several Marvel Snap tips videos that will help you improve. Further, Den, who does the Snap Zone Premium group coaching, does $20 a session, which is extraordinarily low, $20 an hour for his individual coaching. Most people are $100 to $150 an hour for that kind of individual coaching, and Den's one of the best players in the game. He loves coaching, and he can get you to your goals in Snap. Pat J asked my favorite DC character. Well, that's easy. My favorite DC character is Nightwing. I love Nightwing. From the early 2000s, Nightwing just had really great running comics after really great running comics. Chris Sims, a comic writer I really like. Excuse my cold. Chris Sims, a comic writer comic article writer I really enjoyed. I have no idea what he's doing now, but I enjoyed his stuff back when I read it. Used to explain how Nightwing is an example of Batman winning, how like Nightwing is Batman's like ultimate victory against crime. The death of his parents destroys Batman. It leads him to be this dark, maladjusted loner person who tries, but like ultimately has all these problems. Whereas like when Nightwing's parents dies, Batman is able to use his own trauma and tragedy and use it to teach Nightwing to be someone that everyone likes, that is really kind, that really tries to go out of his way to help people. And while he's not perfect, has healed from some of the trauma that still haunts Batman. I love that concept. Plus, he's in a bajillion amazing comics, from Teen Titans to all his solo stuff. The Bloodhaven stuff even is really great. Props, Nightwing is the best DC character in my personal opinion. If you'd like your question read out in tomorrow's video, leave one in the comments. Priority answers, as always, for Patreons. All right, so Phil Woodward started at around rank 25,000, 28,000, something silly like that, and got into the top 7,000 with this exact deck. I played it and gained 4,000 ranks yesterday. This deck is absolutely incredible. I fell down to like 12, 13,000 on vacation. I'm now about 8,000 playing largely this deck. I watched a lot of people play this. I've been telling people to play this, and I watched them play it poorly, so it's really, really important to know how to play it. You're only playing Electra early for a priority target. And outside of that, Sunspot is the only one you ever really play early. Outside of that, you're just trying to get out Bishop and Khazar on 3 and 4. You'll play Strong Guy on 3 or 4 if you don't have Bishop or Khazar, and Black Swan on 5. If you can do that Black Swan on 5, you're playing all those cards, and if you can play like Hit Monkey and Bishop, that's fine. Hit Monkey and Strong Guy, that's fine. On the last turn, because all your ones will cost 0, you end up with a gigantic Hit Monkey, a 9-power Strong Guy, and a bunch of pumped up 1 cost because of Khazar. This ends up even better. Well, not better, but like you end up with even more power often, because you won't always have the 2/3s to play on the last turn. So if you just play Hit Monkey, that Sunspot is going to get better and more powerful. Titania and Martyr are an absolute ton of power at the end of the game. You're adding basically 12 power if you have both of them for 0. If you have 0, you can even ensure Martyr doesn't move, although you're doing a decent job of filling up locations, so that's not always the biggest concern anyway. You've basically always thrown priority, so Titania is extremely safe. Make sure you use her last. And I know a lot of you don't have Martyr, so like just play Forge. You're losing 2 power, but you're more flexible because it's spread across 2 locations. It works out perfectly fine to play Forge. Don't overstress what you Forge. The amplification of Forge isn't really doing like anything on any particular card, right? There's not a scalar that Forge is going to like double up on. He's just the next best stat stick. I've seen people suggest Hawkeye, but Hawkeye can't be played on the last turn. So, well, you can't be played on the last turn to get his ability, which means that you're losing out on an extra Hit Monkey trigger, which means you're not only losing out on Hawkeye, but you're losing out on that 3 power from Hawkeye, right? So like in order to gain the extra 3 power from Hawkeye, you're losing 2 from Hit Monkey and often 1 from Bishop. That equals out. I'd rather just have Forge and cut that knot if you don't have Martyr. Hit Monkey and Black Swan are absolutely needed cards for this deck, though. This is the single best deck for Black Swan I have seen in Marvel Snap. That doesn't mean it's the best deck that plays Black Swan. That Safety Blade bounce deck, I think, is still a better deck than this. The the Call Obsidian one that runs Zabu and all the 4 costs, I think is better. But that deck would have been better with the 3/4 Beast than it is with Black Swan. It's just the 3/4 Beast no longer exists, so Black Swan goes in that deck. This deck only works. It doesn't work with the 3/4 Beast, doesn't work with anything else. This deck is built specifically for Black Swan and is the best specific Black Swan deck in Marvel Snap that I have played. All right, so from 25k rank to 7.5k. So turn 1 is Sunspot or Pass, so is turn 2. Turn 3, Bishop over Strong Guy over Sunspot over Pass. Turn 4, Khazar over Bishop over Strong Guy over Pass. Turn 5, Black Swan, and then if not, you'll play Khazar, and then the same general order as the previous turn. And then turn 6 is all the ones and Hit Monkey, and another 3 if you have it. When this goes off, it's putting 20 plus power in every single lane. It actually competes with Hela on the axis of power reasonably well. If you can, like, Hit Monkey ends up being like a 16 power card reasonably often here. You can beat anything. Losses are often by 1 to 2 power here and there as you're making really tough decisions in the game. This is not an easy deck to pilot, but so I won 68% of my games in Infinite with this, and I had a cube rate of almost 0.2 because people will snap into you. You can snap back at people because you're doing so little for so much of the game. Obviously, if they Sandman, just walk away. All right, quick look. This is a very hippie deck, right? We got Sunspot, Ant-Man, Elektra, Blade, Martyr, Titania, Bishop, Hit Monkey, and Khazar. That's 9. That is our current high in a real deck. We've hit 9, I think, once before in a Tribunal deck, so 9 is beautiful. If you love Dan Hip art, please make sure you try to win that Dan Hip print in our Discord. Again, check our Twitter. Our Twitter has the pinned tweet is a link to that contest. All right, the April cards. The Season Pass card coming out 4/2 is Baron Zemo. He is a 4/6. On reveal, at the lowest cost card from opponent's deck here on your side. Baron Zemo is fundamentally, to me, like a tech card. I think this is going to be really great in certain metas. Excuse me, I'm really sorry, I'm having trouble breathing. I think that this card in particular is amazing against like Hela, where the lowest cost card of their deck, if they have drawn Lockjaw is going to be like, if it's either a blade or an expensive card, right? Like if you steal their Jubilee, you've really crippled their deck. If you steal their Lady Sif, you're a little sad, but you've crippled their deck. And if those cards are in hand, you've taken something big. And if you've taken something big, you're pretty happy. And if you get their Lockjaw, then you can snap and you've won the game. In most metas, though, I feel like this is kind of a bad card. I think it's getting mostly mediocre stuff. It ends up being like a 4/10, but taking up 2 spaces on the board, 4/8, but taking up 2 spaces on the board. And I just don't think that's worth it. Ultimately, I think all season passes are worth buying. I think you can still get almost every card in Marvel Snap for buying the season passes, but this is the weakest season pass we've seen since Phoenix Force. Actually, it's probably weaker than Phoenix Force, since Ghost Spider. Coming out the same week in the Spotlight Caches is Red Hulk, which is a 6/10. When your opponent ends a turn with unspent energy, +4 power if in hand or play. And this to me feels like Ms. Marvel, where like, I think this is going to be really good. I think it's very easy to get this to a 6/14 or a 6/18. I should ultimately just replace Giganto in most decks that run Giganto because it's usually going to be bigger. However, it's hard to know exactly how good this is going to be until it actually exists, right? Like, because this is a new thing, your opponent needing to lose energy, it's much, much harder to know how good this is going to be. Again, a 6/14 is amazing. A 6/18 is completely through the roof strong. And I don't think that's terribly difficult to make happen, right? Like, people skip 1 a lot. If you have this in your opening hand, you've already got yourself a Giganto. 6/10 is not a terrible downside. You're probably not playing it in that case, but it's not a terrible downside. But decks like Hela and so on absolutely love this. This is really strong against decks like Hela, where like they're skipping and passing energy all the damn time as they're like trying to get stuff through. It's strong against Corvus decks and stuff like that as well. I think this is very likely to be an extremely, extremely strong card in Marvel Snap. All right, Power Creep is US Agent. That's the next week's card. Excuse me. 2/6 ongoing, -1 power for each of your other cards here. So if you have 3 other cards, it's a 2/3. But this is just like a Sauron card, like a really, really simple Sauron card, or a Enchantress card, or a Luke Cage card. If you're running any of those cards, you should be running US Agent, whose 2/6s through the roof stats. We've seen that with how many decks Maximus, even with his super, super high downside, goes through. This is, again, strict power creep on Lizard, who could really go back to his previous losing 3 instead of losing 4 when everything is full, because even then it's not as good as US Agent. US Agent's going to be incredible. This is a through-the-roof power creep good card that will go in a ton of decks. Next up, we have White Widow, and I cannot imagine this card exists. This card would immediately be like the best card in Marvel Snap and make bounce everywhere. 2/2 on reveal at a -1 power Widow's Kiss to your opponent's side of here. So you're taking up one of their cards with a -1. So you are basically getting a 2/3, but also the Widow's Kiss, your other cards here have -1 power. So it's reducing every other card in that location. So if you can bounce this, you can take up a lot of your opponent's board and give them -1 across the board, which seems completely insane. So this is going to be an absolutely bonkers bounce card. This works really great with cards like Grandmaster and so on. It's very hard for me to imagine White Widow releasing like this. It will immediately be one of the top 5 to 10 cards in Marvel Snap if it is. This is a must-own. And speaking of must-own cards, we have Valentino, who's a 2/2 on reveal. Add a random 6 cost to your hand, give it -2 power, -2 cost. Now, that's a power and cost modifier, which means that both Mobius and Mobius and Luke Cage will be able to affect this. However, there's an absolute ton of 6 cost cards that you're perfectly freaking fine having -2 power. You would happily take a 4/12 Giganto. You're not thrilled with a 4/3 Thanos, Galactus, right? But you're happy for a 4/8 Thanos, right? There's just a number of really strong cards you can get. A 4/10 from out of Magneto is incredible. And you can, again, always pump that power back up by just playing a Luke Cage in this deck. This card's incredible. It fundamentally says, why the hell would I run Mirage ever again? Because this is just straight up way better. I think Valentine is incredible. An absolutely great Marvel Snap card. And this is the bad card of the month. I would not be shocked if this ends up Series 4. 3/4 on reveal, move the text from the lowest power enemy card here. There's games that's going to win. Like, that's going to be really good against like an opposing Lockjaw, for example, if you can get it out fast enough. But most games, it's going to kind of do nothing. This feels like original Shadow King, where if it costs 2, I could see it finding use. But as a 3/4, I think it's going to be really, really tough for this to be any good. It can hit a Lockjaw and like take away a Kitty Pryde or an Angela or an Elsa, but all those cards that used to be really good early in the game are kind of gone. its best thing to do right now is get rid of a Zabu, but we already have Rogue for that, and Rogue's just generally a better card and hits more things and has more utility. So with all that said, I don't know. I don't really love Red Guardian. We do know that like if like a Blob was alone, right, it would take away Blob's ongoing, but Blob's on reveal already happened. So like it already got that on reveal power. So it's not going to really stop a lot of things, but it is good against ongoing cards. All right. Our next deck is Safety's Helaglaive. This is, according to Den and Safety, the best thing to do with Corvus Glaive right now. I'm not sure if I agree yet, but they are both completely mad about this deck and think that this is a absolutely dominant deck. Excuse me, sorry about that. Again, breathing is not my forte right now. The big swing card here is Giganto. We'll talk about that in a minute, but basically what you want to do is you want to play Corvus. And if you can play Corvus and you chuck Hela, right, you can still skip on 5 and do the Infinite She-Hulk thing on 6, and that's pretty frickin' insanely strong. You can always just play a standard Hela game by going like Blade, Lady Sif, Corvus, and then if you get a Hela out, you win, and you have armor to protect all your stupid nonsense shenanigans. You can even end up Helaing on 5 reasonably often if you suspect a leech, and then you'll have a lovely Infinite, Giganto, Magneto, etc. for turn 6. Black Knight is needed and Corvus is needed. Safety says Cull Obsidian is better than Giganto here. I've also seen Sandman in Leech of those spots. Follow your heart. My general thought is that this is going to be Proxima's slot in the deck in a couple of days, so don't overstress it. I think that this deck will probably just throw a free 4/7 in there. You can find Safety playing this deck on twitch.tv/safetyblade. Again, this deck is wild. Both Den and Safety can put this deck independently as like, oh my god, this is nuts, which usually means that it's pretty damn powerful. All right. So this is not an underplayed deck. This is 157% with a 0.4 cube rate in 2,700 games. Safety in particular is playing this in the top 200-ish on the Infinite leaderboard, which means that this is winning a massive amount at the very top tiers of Marvel Snap. That is, again, a 60% win rate is really high and really good no matter what in Infinite. 57% in High Infinite is stellar. So turn 1, Black Knight over Sunspot. You Blade whenever you have the right target. Turn 2 is generally the turn 1 stuff, is almost always better than armor. Turn 3, Corvus versus Sif is basically answered by is Hela in hand. If Hela is in hand, you can Corvus. If Death is in hand, you want a Lady Sif. Generally speaking, it gets, it's fairly straightforward. Turn 4, see above, but add Cull or Ebony Blade. If you have either of those cards and they make sense, play them. It's also worth noting that if you have Black Knight out, Sif is often better than Corvus because Corvus can hit a low power thing while Sif is largely going to hit a better thing. Cull is here if you have Cull. If not, don't stress it. Turn 5 is Hela or Pass, and turn 6 is Hela or Infinite and She-Hulk. You can also obviously play more discard on turn 5 as necessary, if you weren't going to go the Infinite She-Hulk route. This is an extremely strong deck and extremely cool. You should definitely try it out if you have access to these cards. Alright, quick look. We have our Sunspot hip, our Armor hip, our Sif hip. We could have Magneto hip, but we decided to go Jim Lee because we threw that hip into the next deck. Giganto and Infinite. That's a 6-hipper. Perfectly acceptable. We've also got my favorite Spotlight Black Knight, my favorite Hela, my favorite Death. So there's a lot of variants I really do enjoy in this. I've got the She-Hulk Gold. So big fan of the look of this one. All right, the Moonknight Sonata bundle is generally not good. If you're dying for the Infinity Conquest ticket, that doesn't really have much value. You should be able to grind that if you just play enough. Sorry. Most progress bundles are about 200% value, a little above 200% value. 195 isn't really there. The 1,000 collector's tokens is nice, but it's not enough to really do anything. And the 2,500 credits is, again, nice, but it's about a half a Spotlight cash, so it's usually not worth it. Moonknight is a Series 3 card that doesn't really go in any deck, so there's no reason to really rush getting it. I vote no on this specific bundle. Our last deck is Min's Thanos discard. I wasn't sure what to cover here, and Min straight up insists that this is busted. I played enough Min decks to know that if Min is straight up insisting that a deck is great, then he's usually right. This deck has 10 million plays, so we're not going to be able to go over all of them. But most of the strange ones revolve around Odin and keeping enough space to go either Odin on Hela. So you can Odin on stones to get more cards if you need them, right? Especially on turn 5. You can own Uncorvus Glaive, which is hilarious, and then you just have an absolutely insane amount of energy. You can own on Ghost Rider to pull back another card. Say you Corvus Glaive away 2 cards, and one of them's Hela, you can Ghost Rider for 1 back, and if you hit Hela, awesome. If you don't, you can Odin that Ghost Rider again, which is completely hilarious. You want to do that again on Corvus Glaive. You obviously have Lockjaw cheat, but that's neither here nor there. You can happily Odin a Blob for an extra Blob trigger, which is silly, an extra Magneto trigger, or if you played Hela on 5 and you played Hela on Corvus Glaive, you can do that trick as well. There's a bajillion ways to make this deck spit out a stupid amount of power, and like that's just like, and it doesn't lose the like I can play Time Stone into Cull into Scar nonsense, right? And then you just do whatever the you want on turn 5 at that point, right? Like you're just so far ahead from playing all that massive power. This doesn't bother with tech. It says, I'm going to play more big cards than you can ever possibly. Shang-Chi, good luck. All right, so Thanos is needed, Cull and Blob 2. It's made for Corvus. Scar is unbelievable, but you can try She-Hulk. That previous thing, I don't know why I said Armor for Kyra, previous ideas. There is no more Kyra in this list, but, She-Hulk here, instead of Scar, gives you the opportunity to do that. Oh, I skipped turn 5. I can now play She-Hulk and Infinite on turn 6, which has a lot of value. Just saying from that previous deck, it's harder to pull off in Thanos, but it's there if you make that change. And if you'd like to see some gameplay, check out twitch.tv/Rito_in_disguise and Salem I sent ya. All right, Minh insists on this one. He swears that this is completely insane and broken. I have not had a chance to play this. I have played the previous 2 decks and can swear by them. If Minh says these decks are great, he's usually right. So turn 1, draw. And it says Blob. That should be Blade. I'm sorry, I don't know how to type today. Blade when the discard is right. Draw or Time Stone for Cull. And again, when the time is right, you will happily Blade here. Turn 3, Lockjaw or Cull. Or Corvus or Time Stone. Any of those are perfectly fine. So turn 4 is Stone and Jaw. Scar if you're going to Cull, and potentially you can Ghost Rider. Turn 5, Cull and Stone and Jaw, or Scar if you got a 6 out earlier, Scar and a Stone, or just Scar. Or if you Corvus, you can play any 6 here. You can potentially play Odin on Corvus, or drop your Ghost Rider here, or drop Odin on Ghost Rider here. And once in a while, you just drop a Hela. Turn 6, Blob or Hela or Odin on one of the cards that are most important, and then you win and the opponent can do nothing about it. Quick hip talk: Blade, Lockjaw, Blob, Odin. This is where I threw that Magneto. Infinite. We got 6 along with our beautiful Spotlight Thanos. We also have the Spotlight Blob if we decided to run that as well, which is pretty freaking cool. This deck is very cool, very powerful, if very expensive. If you have access to it, I would try it out. I trust Minh. I'm currently not playing much Thanos or Hela anymore, outside of testing out that previous deck, just because, like, Jesus, there's a lot of them out of these decks. This is one of the ones that puts out the very most stats in Marvel Snap, though. All right, we're going to be looking at some old bundle cards I got from the week I was away for a while. And this was my shop. I bought Hazmat. I decided I like the post-apocalyptic Hazmat more than the others. I really love the background. I like that, like, it looks sort of like a ninja. I bought it. I like that Hazmat. It's great. I didn't buy anything else today. There's nothing else I really cared for. I still like the Peach Null, but I have a Hip and I have a Spotlight one, so whatever. And I have the Hip Jeff, so I'm good. Again, I think I have a Hip for almost everything here except Gamora. And I'm about to get a Gamora for free, right? And I have an old Season Pass Gamora, and I'm about to get a Gamora for free. And the Deadpool Hip will come eventually. So I decided to show you my 2 new Fantastic Four cards. I bought both of these. I decided I love this thing. This feels so perfect for the thing. And I bought this Human Torch because it's Jacinto. Jacinto is my second favorite artist in the game, I think. It's a toss-up between Jacinto and Momoko after Hip. And I love Human Torch. I play a reasonable amount of Phoenix Force, and I love Human Torch Phoenix Force. I know it's not the safest thing, but I don't care. I think that this is super cool, super powerful, and super worth messing with. As far as Human Torch decks go right now, if you're not seeing a lot of Killmonger, if you're not in the part of the meta that has all the Destroy, then the Human Torch decks can go over the top of the Hela decks as long as they're running Tribunal relatively easily, and then it's worthwhile. The Thing stuff is, I mean, Thing isn't really a card, but like this is phenomenal art. The real reason I decided to showcase these two is I'm reading the current Ryan North Fantastic Four run on Marvel Unlimited, and it's freaking stellar. It's a bunch of single issues set after some mysterious thing that made the Fantastic Four fall out of public favor, and it's genuinely a stellar comic book. One of my favorite recent comics in years. Check it out if you haven't. The Ryan North current Fantastic Four run is absolutely great. Covers are also, I believe, Alex Ross, so like, come on, what do you have to lose? All right, certain tiers of Patreon support come with on-air thanks. These are our Patrons to thank. We have Abigail Giesland, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, DG Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, Father Newman, Good Dog Gamer, Inc., J Nevery, JD McDonaldino, Akilla Platino, Caretix Lee, Koirei, Doku, Philip Raktovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins, Rob Silverman, Robert Riverd, Scott G, The Bizza, Jay Bussy, X-Force V, Models, Louis Antunes, Matt Conduit, Matt H, Mikey Hijinks, Snowflex, Ocularis, Pretty Chill, Seamus, Spike Jones, Two Ties, Tucker, The Homey Minh, and of course, Gunny T. All right, check out that Patreon. We've got an absolute ridiculous amount going on there. You get access to our tournaments, not only the Big Snap Judgments League, but the individual smaller tournaments. King of the Hill, that's what we're calling them. The King of the Hill tournaments, where you just have a top 8 knockout tournament. You've also got access to on our Discord, the HIP giveaway. Check our stuff out. Hit that sub button. Our big giveaway starts tomorrow. Don't miss it. We appreciate all of your support. Just subscribe, help us fight that algorithm, and we are more than happy. These decks are completely sick. I'm so happy to be back. I missed doing this, and I missed all of you. Hopefully you feel the same. See you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Peace, y'all.